It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed staring at the ceiling, mentally replaying an email you sent 3 days ago, word for word. You keep asking yourself, did that sound rude? Should I have said it differently? What did they think when they read it? And then, the kicker, you already know this is insane. You know the email was fine. You know nobody cares as much as you think. You know you should just sleep. And yet, you cannot stop. That's not a willpower problem. It's not a discipline problem. And honestly, it's not even really a thinking problem. What's actually happening is your nervous system has decided there's a threat nearby, and it's doing exactly what it was built to do. I'm Alex, and today we're going to talk about what's really going on when you can't stop overthinking. Because the usual advice, just distract yourself, think positive, stop worrying, it doesn't work. Not because you're broken, because it's aimed at the wrong target. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Overthinking is not a mental habit. It's a body problem. Let me explain what I mean. Your brain has a threat detection system. The centerpiece of that system is the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure that acts like a 24/7 security guard scanning for danger. When it detects something it reads as a threat, it fires off a stress response. Cortisol gets released, adrenaline spikes, heart rate climbs, muscles tense. Your body goes into full-on threat mode. Here's where it gets interesting. For your amygdala, a threat doesn't have to be physical. An unanswered text, a conversation that ended awkwardly, an ambiguous comment from your boss. These all register the same way as a rustle in the bushes registered for your ancestors. The amygdala doesn't distinguish between a tiger and a passive-aggressive Slack message. Both feel like survival. And when the amygdala fires, it partially shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the rational, logical part of your brain that would otherwise talk you down. So you end up in this loop. You sense a vague threat, your rational brain gets muted, and your thought process spins in circles, trying to resolve something it doesn't have the resources to resolve. That spiral? That's overthinking. It's your nervous system running threat detection software on a problem that doesn't have a clear answer. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, a psychiatrist and trauma researcher who wrote The Body Keeps the Score, spent decades documenting how unresolved emotional experiences live not just in the mind, but in the body. His core finding? The body holds stress states that the mind can't simply think its way out of. You can intellectually understand that the email you sent was fine, and still feel the anxiety, because the anxiety isn't coming from the logic center. It's coming from somewhere deeper. This connects to something called polyvagal theory, developed by neuroscientist Dr. Stephen Porges. The polyvagal theory describes how your nervous system constantly scans the environment for cues of safety or danger, a process Porges calls neuroception. It's happening below conscious awareness. Your body decides whether you're safe before your brain even knows what it's responding to. If your nervous system decides you're in danger, even vague, unclear, undefined danger, it's going to keep sounding the alarm until it gets a signal that the coast is clear. No amount of logical reasoning will shut that alarm off, because logic isn't what turned it on. There's also a brain network involved here called the default mode network, the DMN. This is the network that activates when you're not focused on a task, when your mind is just running. Neuroscience research has linked an overactive DMN to excessive self-referential thinking, rumination, and that specific flavor of misery where you mentally time travel to cringe-worthy moments from 2014. Studies published in journals like Psychological Science have found that people who struggle with rumination show higher DMN activation and less ability to switch out of it. Your brain literally gets stuck in a loop, not because you're choosing to stay there, but because the switch isn't working properly. So now you know the real problem. The overthinking loop has three main triggers. First, ambiguity and uncertainty. Your nervous system hates not knowing. An unanswered text, a vague piece of feedback, a situation with no clear resolution. These keep the threat detection system active because it can't get closure. The loop keeps running, searching for an answer that isn't available. Second, unresolved emotional experiences. If something happened that you didn't fully process, a conflict, a loss, a moment of embarrassment, the nervous system can hold on to it. It keeps flagging it as unfinished business. The overthinking about something trivial today might actually be downstream of something that wasn't trivial at all, that you just never fully worked through. Third, low perceived control. When you feel like events are happening to you rather than being shaped by you, the stress response ramps up. Research by psychologist Martin Seligman, the same guy who pioneered positive psychology, showed that perceived helplessness is one of the most potent activators of chronic stress. When you feel like you have no control over an outcome, the brain keeps revisiting it, hoping to find a lever to pull. Here's the brutal irony. The more you try to think your way out of the loop, the deeper you go. Every attempt to analyze the problem is more activity in the same overloaded system. You're pouring water on a grease fire. So what actually works? 3 techniques that operate at the level of the nervous system, not just the mind. Number 1, the physiological sigh. Neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman at Stanford has done extensive research on this and calls it the fastest way to reduce physiological stress in real time. Here's how it works. Take a normal inhale through your nose, then add a second short inhale on top of it, like a sniff, to fully inflate the lungs. Then do a long, slow exhale through your mouth. That double inhale reinflates the tiny air sacs in the lungs called alveoli, which collapse slightly during sustained stress and shallow breathing. The extended exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, through the vagus nerve. 2 or 3 of these and you will feel a measurable shift. Not because you changed your thoughts, because you sent your body a safety signal. The next time you're spiraling at 2 a.m., don't try to think your way out. Breathe your way out first, then think. Number 2, name it to tame it. This comes from Dr. Dan Siegel, a clinical professor of psychiatry at UCLA. His research shows that when you label an emotion, specifically when you put words to what you're feeling, it activates the prefrontal cortex and measurably reduces activity in the amygdala. Not talking about it vaguely, actually naming it. I feel anxious. I feel embarrassed. I feel out of control right now. The labeling acts like a circuit breaker between the emotional alarm and the runaway thought spiral. Most people do the opposite. They avoid naming the feeling because naming it feels like admitting it. But the avoidance keeps the amygdala firing. The labeling quiets it. You don't need to journal 1,000 words. You need 1 sentence. What am I actually feeling right now? Say it out loud if you can. Write it down. The specificity is the point. Number 3, the worry window. This one sounds counterintuitive, but it has solid research behind it. A study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that people who scheduled a specific 15-minute window each day dedicated to worrying, and then actively postponed anxious thoughts outside that window, experienced significantly fewer intrusive thoughts than people who tried to suppress worrying entirely. Suppression doesn't work. The brain treats suppressed thoughts like forbidden fruit. The more you tell it not to think about something, the more it does. Here's how to use it. Pick a specific time slot, not right before bed, something like 5 p.m. or after dinner. When an anxious thought shows up outside that window, you don't fight it and you don't indulge it. You write it down and tell yourself, I'll think about this at 5 p.m. And then you do. You sit down, you give it your full attention for 15 minutes, and then you close the notebook. Over time, the brain learns that the threat isn't urgent. The loop loses momentum. Here's the thing about all 3 of these. None of them require you to have the right mindset. None of them require willpower. They work because they're sending signals to the nervous system in the language the nervous system actually understands. Breath, body sensation, emotion labeling, pattern, and structure. You can't think your way out of a nervous system state, but you can feel your way back to safety and then think clearly from there. One more thing before we wrap up. A lot of overthinking is really the brain trying to protect you from something. It's not your enemy. It's a system that got miscalibrated, that learned at some point that staying vigilant was the safest option. You don't fix it by fighting it. You fix it by giving it better information. Safety is the opposite of threat, and you build a felt sense of safety through the body, through breath, through naming what's real, through predictable structure, not through more analysis. So here's your one specific thing to do today. Tonight, if you catch yourself in a thought spiral, do the physiological sigh. Not once, 3 times in a row. Double inhale, long exhale. Just that. See what happens to the loop. You don't have to fix the thing you're overthinking. You just have to give your nervous system a reason to stand down. Start there. The clearer thinking will follow. If this changed how you think about overthinking, share it with someone who needs it. And if you want to go deeper on this stuff, the neuroscience, the habits, the real reasons our brains work against us, subscribe. That's what we do here. I'll see you in the next one. Start there. The clearer thinking will follow. A lot of overthinking is really the brain trying to protect you from something. It's not your enemy. It's a system that got miscalibrated. You don't fix it by fighting it. You fix it by giving it better information. Safety is the opposite of threat, and you build a felt sense of safety through the body, through breath, through naming what's real, through predictable structure, not through more analysis. Tonight, if you catch yourself in a thought spiral, do the physiological sigh. Not once, 3 times in a row. Double inhale, long exhale. Just that. See what happens to the loop. You don't have to fix the thing you're overthinking. You just have to give your nervous system a reason to stand down. Start there. The clearer thinking will follow. If this changed how you think about overthinking, share it with someone who needs it. And if you want to go deeper on this stuff, the neuroscience, the habits, the real reasons our brains work against us, subscribe. That's what we do here. I'll see you in the next one. The amygdala doesn't distinguish between a tiger and a passive-aggressive Slack message. The body holds stress states that the mind can't simply think its way out of. Your nervous system constantly scans for cues of safety or danger, below conscious awareness. The loop keeps running, searching for an answer that isn't available. You can't think your way out of a nervous system state, but you can feel your way back to safety, and then think clearly from there. The physiological sigh, double inhale, long exhale, 2 or 3 times. Name it to tame it. One specific sentence about what you're actually feeling. The worry window, 15 minutes, scheduled, bounded. The rest of the day, you postpone. None of these require willpower. They speak to the nervous system in its own language. Overthinking isn't a flaw. It's a miscalibrated protection system. You fix it by sending your body a safety signal, not by thinking harder. Breathe first. Name it. Schedule it. Then think. The clearer thinking is always on the other side of a regulated nervous system. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. You're just giving it better information. That's not a small thing. That's the whole thing. Safety is the signal your nervous system has been waiting for, and you can send that signal tonight. 3 breaths, 1 honest sentence, 1 scheduled window. That's how you start teaching your nervous system that it's safe to stand down. Start tonight, and share this with someone who's been lying awake at 2 a.m. too. I'll see you in the next one.